Let's take a look at the gear we're riding. How do you decide what to buy? What makes gear special? I think one of the things for me is really showing off that personality. What do I want to look like? What is the style? Throw some steez in there. I think that individuality comes out here. And then just some of the kind of safety features and things like that that I take a look at when I'm choosing gear. Sometimes it can feel a little bit intimidating when you go out to the trails for the first time or ride with your friends and everyone's got the nicest stuff, but I think back about me and my brother, we were wearing some hand-me-down stuff from my dad, thinking back on just how big it was. It was like an extra large when we were really small. And I think your kind of style evolves over time, your taste evolves over time. So some of the stuff that I thought was super cool at the time, I look back on and maybe it's not so cool anymore. But having been into it for so long, I can just tell you that it's not all about the gear. Obviously you want to be safe, but so many times I get, messages from people who say, I can't do a race because I don't have the right gear, or I can't do this ride or this jump or whatever it is because I don't have the right gear. And I would just say, don't let that hold you back. And I think a lot of the times, buying a new set of gear can make us feel great and it makes us feel confident. And that's awesome, right? It's like buying a new pair of pants or something like that before you go to the dance party. Everyone's gonna be looking at you, but you might not dance any better. Probably not gonna dance any better. So don't let that stop you from getting out and having fun. That being said, you do want to be safe. So that's really my goal here, is to try to give some insight on where that line is between safety, performance, and cost. One little pro tip that I do have for you is a lot of the time when we get new stuff, we want to try to push it to its limit to see if it's actually better. But I've had definitely some experiences where I get a new bike and ride it out there and then I realize that I forgot to tighten my handlebars and I didn't take a multi-tool. So one of the things I would say is make sure you test it out on a little home loop or something like that, something that's mellow, where if you forgot to tighten a bolt on your bike, or you forgot to put a helmet pad in, or your shoes are a little bit too big, or your cleats aren't tight, that way you're not out in the middle of nowhere, or you don't get hurt, or something like that, or something doesn't break. So make sure that you don't try to push it to its limit right from the start, and you kind of test it out first. All right, this is my bag. This is the bag that I take with me. I kind of leave it packed up and then just kind of take my dirty clothes, put them in the wash when I get done riding, but this bag kind of stays packed up. That way I don't forget anything, which happens to me a lot. So the first thing we're gonna go over is helmet. This is my helmet, this is my Enduro helmet. It's pretty standard, call it a half shell because you don't have the chin bar. Some Enduro helmets will have the chin bar where you can disconnect them. And I always find when I'm riding something really gnarly, especially if I'm gonna be shuttling or if I have to hike a bike, I do wear my full face a lot. That's kind of personal preference, but it is gonna be a lot safer. Feel kind of exposed in the old half shell, but they are getting a lot safer. So a lot of the times these side pieces will come down a lot. Make sure the helmet that you do get has adjustability in the back. This is going to keep your helmet from flopping around. I feel like a lot of the time I see riders put their helmet on, and when you have it all the way unadjusted, it's gonna go like that. And a lot of the time when you're going over super rough stuff, it's gonna bang, you're not gonna be able to see. So tightening that up in the back is really gonna help with that. The other thing that you can find for safety is a lot of the companies now will have these little systems that have some flex here. And those are a lot of times called MIP systems. There are different companies that do it, but what that's gonna do is when you do crash, it's gonna allow the helmet to rotate on your head, not sticking into the ground and hopefully helping with a concussion. So that is a safety feature that is in some of the newer helmets, and I would definitely recommend that you find one with that. But otherwise, man, it's a vanity piece. Have fun with it. So we also run glasses, and I keep being told this, that I'm supposed to run them on the outside, run the glasses on the outside of the straps. Give you a little steez tip there, and I'm still learning. But this is kind of the setup. You can run goggles on a half shell. My eyes start to water. Some people don't wear glasses or goggles at all, but you're gonna want some eye protection. Sometimes sticks and things like that come into your face. I like to have goggles on or glasses. On a full face, please just wear goggles. It makes you look much cooler. It's gonna be much more protective. So you kind of wanna have two different setups, the full face with the goggles and then the half shell with the glasses. As I'm climbing up, a lot of the times I won't wear my glasses. Some helmets have a dedicated spot for them. This one is right in the back. So you can run them there and they'll stick there, like actually have this little slot, which is kind of cool. Stick right on the back. It's kind of nice. Other ones, you can stick them right in the front, underneath the visor, but also remember to put your visor back down and take your glasses off, because I've definitely forgotten them. So onto the pads. This is an enduro knee pad. And kind of the distinction here is you'll find it's much more meshy. It doesn't have a hard shell on the outside, so it's gonna be much more breathable. Sometimes people run their knee pads down by their ankles as they climb up. A pad like this is gonna be, again, less protective, but I keep them on my entire ride as I'm climbing, as I'm descending. The difference here between kind of a downhill knee pad and an enduro knee pad is that hard shell is gonna be on the outside. They might be a little more rigid. They will be a little bit more rigid. Have some padding on the sides here. That really, again, kind of comes down to a trade-off between safety and performance, as in kind of breathability, maneuverability, and comfort a lot, actually, sometimes. So on the downhill, I always think just wear the biggest pads that you can be comfortable with. I always wear my knee pads when I'm riding, especially on my downhill bike. They saved me so many times, especially those hard shells. I've had crashes and looked at the shell and there's been a huge dent in it. And I just kind of thank everything that that wasn't my knee. So just make sure you're wearing your protection, especially knee pads. A lot of people wear elbow pads and a back plate as well. And that's a good idea on a downhill bike. Our next item is clothing. As you can see, I'm running a long sleeve and long pants. A lot of people, when they run enduro, run a short sleeve shirt and shorts. For me, personally, I kind of just feel naked when I have a short sleeve shirt on, even though this thing is pretty thin and breathable. Kind of helps protect me from bushes, from scratches and scrapes when I do fall. And kind of same with the pants. I just feel a lot more safe and I feel cool. So as I was talking about before, it's just kind of my style. I come from a motocross background and that's kind of what we wore. And it's something that makes me feel good on the bike. When you're choosing a jersey and pants, it's crazy important to think about the durability. I've seen a lot of people take one little crash and next thing you know, the knees are scraped up and there's holes in them. Same with the jersey. I run Rafa. It's definitely the best gear I've ever had, but it is crazy expensive. You don't have to buy gear this expensive to kind of have fun. Our next item is shoes. I'm super dedicated to teaching you everything I know, which is why I took off my shoe just for you. I run Crank Brothers shoes, and the thing that I think about most here is kind of just the width of the shoe. I think I have kind of wide feet, so that's something that really, something I notice a lot. And then the next thing I think about is, are my shoes waterproof? I've had a lot of instances of cold, wet feet over the years, and one of the things I look for most is, are they acting as a scoop? So much of the time you'll have waterproof here, but then if kind of the tongue isn't water resistant or something like that, then it's really just a bucket for your foot to be stuck in water. So that is something that's really important. I run clip shoes like we talked about earlier. And this is something that I want to talk about a little bit because depending on where these cleats are set, will actually give you a different amount of power. They'll make your legs feel tired at different points. So the further back you run them, it's gonna feel a little bit weird, but you're actually gonna be kind of behind the ball of your foot. And that's gonna allow you to get power straight down from your hips, your glutes, your thighs, all the way into a flat foot, which is gonna be much, much, much more efficient than trying to pedal through your toes. It's gonna be so much calf, and that's why you get that tired calf muscle in the back. The other thing to think about is the rotation of it. So you can actually adjust the rotation. I like to have my foot, if I'm here, normally you'll have float, left and right. So I actually like to have more float going in than out. So I like to hit the side of my kind of pedal where I'm gonna clip out really early so I can easily clip out, but then when I'm turning, I can have that float in. So that's why you see that it's slightly turned right here. And that's something you can play with. It's, again, kind of personal preference, but it's some of those little details. That's kind of the stuff you'll see the World Cup riders. They're actually kind of adjusting this stuff to see what makes me feel better. And again, it's all about exploration and kind of finding out what makes you feel the best. There's a lot of different kind of lace mechanisms now. You can have the boa, you can have the straps, you can have the laces. I haven't really noticed a difference between any of them in terms of kind of stability of the shoe or anything like that. The boa is a little bit easier, so that's a plus. These ones have kind of a cool little pouch that you can put your laces in, so you can be clean, but I wouldn't stress over that stuff too much. Something I just discovered recently is hip packs. I talk about an evolution of style. I never wore hip packs kind of for most of my career, but actually now I run a hip pack instead of even the backpack or a water bottle, just because I don't like cleaning up the water bottles, washing them and stuff like that. Hip pack and the bladder I can fill up, has a ton of water, never really get dehydrated. I can also carry my snacks in here and some tools, stuff like that. This one's a pretty small one, a hydro flask. Most of it is really just the bladder, and it has a little bit of room. For me, also, I carry my phone in here and stuff like that. It's just a little bit easier than trying to stuff my pockets, stuff my bike with equipment for me out on the ride. I feel like there are exciting things to buy and things that are necessary to buy. And one of those things that comes to mind is kind of nutrition. I mentioned I keep my bars and snacks in my pack. So I've got this little bar in here. I usually keep multiple. A little pro tip that I'm gonna tell you about is pickle juice. So one thing that you can do before a climb, like I'm not actually joking at all, is get some pickle juice, take a little shot of it before you hit the climb. You're gonna smoke every single one of your friends, but use sparingly. So the bars are gonna be your best friend. I use a rule of thumb of drinking a bottle of water an hour and then eating a bar every half an hour. So that seems like a lot, but a lot of the times when you bonk, it's not actually that you're tired or out of shape, it's that you don't have enough fuel to go further. So eating that bar every half an hour, thinking about that, what ride am I gonna go on, how many shuttle runs am I gonna do on my downhill bike, and then fueling up, having a bar, having a sandwich, make that peanut butter and jelly, and eat.